The Battle of Endor remains one of the most pivotal moments in the Star Wars saga. It is here that the Rebel Alliance mounted a daring offensive to destroy the second Death Star, secure victory against the Galactic Empire, and pave the way for a new era of galactic governance. However, what if the infamous 501st Legion, comprised of Jango Fett clones, had been stationed at the shield generator on Endor? The outcome of this legendary battle would have been drastically different, ensuring the Empire's unyielding grip on the galaxy. The 501st Legion, famously known as Vader's Fist, was more than just another military unit. These clones were handpicked and rigorously trained to be the best, bred for combat efficiency and unwavering loyalty. Unlike the stormtroopers commonly deployed during the Empire's reign, the 501st boasted a level of discipline, precision, and combat prowess unmatched by any other military force in the galaxy. They were forged in the crucible of the Clone Wars, honing their skills on battlefields from Geonosis to the Outer Rim sieges. Each soldier carried not only Jango Fett's genetic template, but also the tactical genius and combat instinct that made Fett one of the galaxy's most feared bounty hunters. Stationing such an elite force at the Endor shield generator would have been a tactical masterstroke. The shield generator was the linchpin of the Empire's defense of the second Death Star, its protection ensuring the survival of the Emperor's ultimate weapon. In the canonical timeline, the Rebel strike team led by Han Solo and Leia Organa exploited the relative inexperience and lack of cohesion among the stormtroopers stationed on Endor. However, replacing those troopers with the battle-hardened 501st would have rendered such a strategy futile. First and foremost, the 501st would have recognized and countered the Rebels' guerrilla tactics with calculated precision. The Rebel strike team relied heavily on stealth and subterfuge, using the dense forests of Endor to evade patrols and set ambushes. While this proved effective against regular stormtroopers, who often lacked the tactical acumen to adapt quickly to unconventional warfare, it would have been a deadly miscalculation against the 501st. These clones were not mere soldiers, they were adaptive warriors with extensive experience in counterinsurgency operations. During the Clone Wars, they faced similar situations on planets like Felucia and Megiddo, where dense terrain and hostile environments tested their resolve and adaptability. The Rebels, no matter how skilled, would have found themselves outmaneuvered and outgunned at every turn. Furthermore, the Ewoks, native to Endor, played a crucial role in aiding the Rebel forces. Their intimate knowledge of the terrain and their ability to wage primitive but effective warfare were decisive in turning the tide of the ground battle. Yet even the fierce determination of the Ewoks would have been insufficient against the might of the 501st. The clones' superior tactics and advanced technology would have rendered the Ewoks' guerrilla warfare ineffective. The traps and ambushes set by the Ewoks, which proved devastating against the stormtroopers, would have been anticipated and neutralized by the 501st. Their rigorous training in situational awareness and their use of advanced reconnaissance equipment would have ensured they remained one step ahead of any potential ambush. The psychological factor must also be considered. The 501st Legion carried an aura of invincibility. Their presence on the battlefield struck fear into their enemies, demoralizing opposition forces before a single shot was fired. The Rebel strike team, already undertaking a near impossible mission, would have been acutely aware of the reputation of Vader's Fist. This psychological edge would have sown doubt and hesitation among the Rebels, diminishing their combat effectiveness. Even the most resolute warriors can falter when faced with an enemy they perceive as unbeatable. Moreover, the 501st's unwavering loyalty to the Empire and their chain of command would have left no room for the errors or lapses in judgment that plagued ordinary stormtrooper units. In the original timeline, the Empire's reliance on conscripted soldiers and officers led to a certain degree of complacency and overconfidence, which the Rebels were able to exploit. However, the 501st operated with a level of discipline that would have closed off any such vulnerabilities. They would have fortified the shield generator with meticulous precision, ensuring that every possible point of entry was secured, every patrol route optimized, and every defensive position maximized for combat effectiveness. In addition to their tactical superiority, the 501st would have brought with them an arsenal of specialized weaponry and equipment far beyond the standard issue of Imperial stormtroopers. Thermal detonators, portable missile launchers, and advanced surveillance drones would have given them a significant technological edge. They could have employed such tools not only to repel direct assaults, but also to conduct preemptive strikes against rebel forces, disrupting their operations before they could even launch their attack on the shield generator. The presence of the 501st would have also meant a more efficient coordination with the Death Star's command structure. Communications between ground forces and the orbital station would have been streamlined, enabling rapid response to any developing threats. The clone's ability to operate seamlessly as part of a larger military apparatus would have ensured that no rebel movement went undetected or unchallenged. If the shield generator had come under attack, reinforcements would have been deployed with unprecedented speed and precision, crushing the rebel strike team before they could sabotage the installation. From a strategic perspective, the Empire's deployment of the 501st to Endor would have been a demonstration of its commitment to securing the second Death Star at all costs. Such a decision would have underscored the importance of the shield generator and its critical role in the broader context of the Galactic Civil War. This would have sent a clear message to the Rebel Alliance the Empire would no longer tolerate acts of insurrection and would respond with overwhelming force to protect its interests. In this alternate scenario, the rebels would have found themselves trapped in a situation where their best-laid plans fell apart under the relentless onslaught of the 501st. Every attempt to breach the shield generator would have been met with fierce resistance, every maneuver countered with lethal efficiency. The tactical genius of Jango Fett, inherited by his clones, would have ensured that the 501st anticipated and neutralized any strategy the rebels could conceive. As the battle dragged on, the rebels would have been forced to retreat, their hopes of destroying the second Death Star and toppling the Empire crushed. It is not an exaggeration to assert that the presence of the 501st at Endor would have made it impossible for the rebellion to achieve victory. The overwhelming superiority of Vader's fist, both in terms of combat effectiveness and psychological impact, would have ensured that the shield generator remained intact. This, in turn, would have safeguarded the Death Star, allowing it to unleash its devastating power against the Rebel fleet and the Alliance's forces. With the Rebel Alliance obliterated, the Empire would have emerged from the Battle of Endor as an unassailable superpower, cementing its rule over the galaxy for generations to come. The Rebel Alliance's success at Endor was predicated on a combination of audacity, skill, and fortunate circumstances. However, the insertion of the 501st Legion into the equation would have eliminated the element of chance, replacing it with a cold, calculated certainty of Imperial victory. In this hypothetical scenario, the rebellion's dream of liberation would have been extinguished, leaving the galaxy in the iron grip of the Emperor and his indomitable forces. The tactical depth and unparalleled combat proficiency of the 501st Legion would not only have decimated the rebel ground forces, but would have effectively sealed off any chance of a coordinated effort between the ground and space operations. In the actual timeline, the rebel fleet was able to press its attack against the Death Star because of the ground team's success in disabling the shield generator. With the 501st stationed at Endor, this critical juncture of the battle would have turned into an insurmountable obstacle. The 501st's deep understanding of battlefield strategy meant that their defensive measures would have gone beyond mere physical fortifications. They would have employed a layered defense system, using overlapping fields of fire, hidden observation posts, and remote sensor relays to ensure no enemy could approach undetected. Each member of the 501st was trained to operate independently if necessary, meaning that even isolated soldiers could hold their ground against superior numbers. The rebel strike team, despite their skill and determination, would have found themselves in a nightmarish scenario, constantly observed, harassed, and unable to advance without sustaining heavy casualties. The dense forests of Endor, which the rebels used to their advantage in the actual battle, would have been exploited just as effectively by the 501st. Their combat history included operations in similarly challenging environments. On planets such as Kashyyyk, where the Wookiees' knowledge of their dense jungle home initially gave them the upper hand, the 501st quickly adapted, using advanced tactics and specialized equipment to turn the tide. On Endor, the rebels and their Ewok allies would have faced a relentless campaign of attrition, as the 501st used their expertise to dominate the terrain. The Ewoks, in particular, would have stood little chance against such an elite force. While their primitive weapons and cunning tactics were effective against standard stormtroopers, they would have been of limited use against the 501st. The clones' use of heavy blasters, flamethrowers, and other area denial weapons would have neutralized the Ewoks' guerrilla strategies. Entire swathes of forest could have been rendered impassable with calculated precision, forcing the Ewoks into direct confrontations where their vulnerabilities would have been mercilessly exploited. The psychological blow of seeing their home systematically turned into a battlefield would have broken their resolve, leaving the rebel strike team without their crucial local support. The 501st would have also utilized their unparalleled communication and coordination skills to maintain constant contact with the Death Star and the Imperial fleet. Any hint of rebel activity would have been relayed instantly, allowing for swift and decisive countermeasures. In this scenario, even if the rebels had managed to land undetected, their movements and strategies would have been compromised almost immediately. The 501st's use of encrypted communication channels and portable jamming devices would have further isolated the rebels, cutting them off from their fleet and leaving them to fend for themselves in hostile territory. Another critical element to consider is the presence of leadership within the 501st. Unlike the stormtroopers stationed at Endor in the original timeline, who were led by relatively inexperienced officers, the 501st operated under the direct command of some of the Empire's most competent leaders. The presence of a seasoned commander, potentially even Darth Vader himself, would have drastically shifted the balance of power. Vader's presence alone would have elevated the already formidable 501st into an unstoppable force. His tactical genius, coupled with his mastery of the Force, would have ensured the complete annihilation of any rebel threat. Under his command, the 501st would have anticipated every possible strategy the rebels could employ, dismantling their plans before they even had a chance to take shape. Even if Vader were not physically present, the leadership structure of the 501st ensured that their officers were well versed in his methods and expectations. These officers would have implemented Vader's strategies with ruthless efficiency, maintaining the discipline and effectiveness of the unit under even the most intense conditions. The rebel strike team, lacking comparable leadership on the ground, would have been at a severe disadvantage. While Han Solo and Leia Organa were skilled and resourceful, their leadership experience paled in comparison to the battle-hardened officers of the 501st. The space battle above Endor would have similarly played out differently under these circumstances. The success of Admiral Akbar's fleet depended heavily on the ground team's ability to deactivate the shield generator, allowing the rebel ships to target the Death Star's reactor. However, with the shield intact, the rebel fleet would have been forced to engage the Imperial Navy in a direct confrontation, a scenario heavily skewed in favor of the Empire. The Death Star's operational status meant that the superweapon could be used to annihilate entire rebel capital ships one by one with impunity. The longer the shield remained active, the more devastating the losses for the rebel alliance. The coordinated efforts of the 501st and the Imperial fleet would have ensured that no opportunity for a rebel victory presented itself. The ground forces would have repelled the rebel strike team, while the fleet, under the command of figures like Admiral Pyatt, would have systematically dismantled the rebel space forces. With no hope of achieving their objectives, the rebels would have been forced into a desperate retreat, their fleet scattered and their morale shattered. The 501st's presence would have also meant that critical errors made by the Empire in the original timeline, such as underestimating the rebels or failing to properly secure key installations, would not have occurred. Every aspect of the shield generator's defense would have been meticulously planned and executed. Escape routes, fallback positions, and contingency plans would have been established, ensuring that even if the rebels managed to achieve some degree of success, they would have been unable to capitalize on it. Perhaps the most decisive element in this alternate scenario is the ideological and psychological resilience of the 501st. Unlike the stormtroopers, who were often conscripted and lacked a deep commitment to the Empire's cause, the clones of the 501st were bred and trained for unwavering loyalty. Their belief in the Empire's mission and their dedication to their comrades made them a uniquely formidable force. This sense of purpose would have driven them to fight with unrelenting determination, even in the face of overwhelming odds. In summary, the deployment of the 501st Legion to Endor would have created a scenario in which the Rebel Alliance could not have achieved victory. The combination of their superior tactics, Advanced technology, unbreakable discipline, and strategic leadership would have ensured the shield generator remained intact, securing the Death Star and the Empire's dominance. Every move made by the Rebel Alliance would have been countered with precision and lethal efficiency, leaving them with no path to success. The Rebellion's hope for a free galaxy would have been extinguished, cementing the Empire's rule for generations to come. The 501st Legion, the same elite unit that executed Operation Nightfall at the Jedi Temple, would have brought the same ruthless efficiency and tactical brilliance to Endor. During Operation Nightfall, they demonstrated an unmatched ability to overcome one of the most formidable defenses in the galaxy, the Jedi. Tasked with eliminating an ancient order of warriors renowned for their combat prowess and connection to the Force, the 501st marched into the Jedi Temple under Darth Vader's command and annihilated all opposition. Masters, knights, and Padawans alike fell before their coordinated assault, a grim testament to their lethal precision and unflinching loyalty. This history underlines why stationing the 501st at the Endor shield generator would have made victory impossible for the Rebel Alliance. The Jedi, despite their mastery of the Force and centuries of training, could not stand against Vader's fist. The Rebel strike team, brave and resourceful as they were, would have stood no chance against such a force. Unlike the stormtroopers who faltered at Endor, the 501st had already proven themselves capable of carrying out missions that required absolute precision, adaptability, and an unwavering commitment to their objectives. During Operation Nightfall, they faced opponents who could sense danger before it struck, deflect blaster bolts, and wield the Force to enhance their physical and mental capabilities. Yet the 501st prevailed, systematically dismantling the Jedi's defenses and securing the temple. On Endor, facing mere soldiers, rebels, and Ewoks, their superiority would have been even more pronounced. The same tactical doctrine that allowed them to storm the temple would have been applied on Endor: coordinated strikes, relentless assaults, and a comprehensive strategy that left no room for their enemies to regroup or counterattack. Moreover, Operation Nightfall demonstrated their ability to operate under the leadership of Darth Vader, whose command style blended fearsome power with strategic genius. On Endor, the presence of a figure like Vader, or even the shadow of his influence through the chain of command, would have solidified the 501st's already formidable effectiveness. The Rebels, unlike the Jedi, lacked any comparable leader on the battlefield who could match the tactical insight and sheer presence of Vader or his elite officers. Ultimately, the 501st Legion represented the pinnacle of the Empire's military capability, forged in the fires of the Clone Wars and tempered by their loyalty to the Emperor's will. They were not ordinary soldiers, but the perfect embodiment of the Empire's might, capable of crushing hope wherever it arose. Had they been stationed at Endor, the Rebel Alliance's bold assault would have been reduced to a desperate, doomed effort, ending in complete annihilation. The same soldiers who extinguished the light of the Jedi would have ensured that the light of the rebellion was similarly snuffed out, leaving the galaxy to languish under the dark reign of the Empire for generations to come.